Hello, and welcome to episode 29 of A Week in Watches, a weekly look back at interesting watch news and stories. I'm your host, Zach Weiss, co-founder of Worn & Wound. Thanks for joining me. And, I believe this episode is airing on December 25th, so Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. I hope you're having a lovely vacation and all that. This episode is it's going to actually be mostly a Q&A from questions we received on Instagram. Thanks to everyone who sent your questions. You know, obviously we could only pick a few, but I appreciate them all. The first story, however, is from the past week from our good friends over at Seiko, so we couldn't resist. Should be a fun and quick story. This week's sponsor is Watch Crunch, a dedicated social media site for watch enthusiasts. It's like a combination of a forum and Instagram, but just about watches. You're gonna love it. Learn more about Watch Crunch later on in this episode. Seiko gets a head start on next year's anniversary. Next year is the 110th anniversary of the first Seiko watch, the Seiko Laurel. Every year is an anniversary, after all, as we've said. And to get the party started, they've announced two limited editions. First is the lesser exciting of the two, but still a very appealing watch. It's called the SPB 333. It's a limited edition of 5,000 pieces worldwide, so there's quite a few out there. It's a silvery take on the newer recreation of the 6105-8000. So those are a line that came out earlier this year. It has an ice textured dial, similar to the recent Save the Ocean models, in sort of a silvery white color, with a gray bezel, and it comes mounted to a 5-link bracelet. A blue seconds hand adds a touch of color to the otherwise monotone watch, and it comes with an additional fabric strap made using Seiko, a Japanese braiding technique, which it uses gray and white fibers that are alternating, that, to quote Seiko, captures the beauty of glacial ice. Powered by the 6R35 movement, the SPB 333 will retail for $1,300 and be available in January. While the SPB 333 is an LE for the sake of an anniversary, the SPB 359 is more tailored for the occasion. Seiko's first wristwatch, Japan's first wristwatch in fact, was the Seiko Laurel from 1913. Looking a bit like a mix between a wristwatch and a pocket watch by today's standards, it had a very kind of traditional European style to it, with a white enamel dial. Breguet hour numerals in black save a very distinctive bright red 12. This isn't the first tribute to the Laurel that Seiko has made, but it's the first time, to my knowledge, that they've gone so far as to really recreate the case. So coming in at 37.5 millimeters and completely round, it features fixed articulating steel lugs. So they're kind of like hinged little horseshoe-shaped lugs that come off of it. Definitely a less commercial style. It is quite exciting actually to see Seiko take a risk like this, because they tend to use fairly traditional case shapes even for their anniversary models. The dial reflects the Laurel while also being a modern interpretation. It's made most distinctly out of white enamel, which is exciting, and is crafted by enamel master Mr. Yokosawa of Fuji Enamel Co., which they're very proud to let you know. It has bold Breguet numerals, including the bold red 12, as well as a unique 4 crossbar detail. This is something you have to look at with a loop, but there's like a little E shape coming off of the 4 at the very back, which is another thing that they were sure to recreate. The difference is, however, is that the Laurel has been replaced with Seiko Presage, and as per the 6R27 caliber inside, the sub-seconds of the original is actually a pointer date on the new model, and there's an addition of a power reserve from 8 to 10. Perhaps a little bit less clean than the original, but I still think it is quite attractive. Lastly, they recreated a vintage cuff strap for this. Made out of brown deer leather, it has a funky system of attaching the watch to the strap. So there's actually like a strap within a strap. There's a little strap that goes underneath the watch and then buckles onto the strap, and then there's the strap itself. Coming in at $1,800, this is a limited edition of 2,500 pieces, also available in January. It's hard to say what else we'll see from Seiko for the 110th anniversary of the Seiko Laurel, but I highly doubt that this is it. All right, question 1. At Integrated Bracelet, which is a pretty solid username for a watch enthusiast, asks, with Ming, Kurono, etc., are dress watches making a comeback? Please say yes. Well, I do think the answer is yes, so not sure Personally, if I'd group Ming in there, they kind of have a different style, but you know, that's semantics. That aside, I think dress watches are truly poised for a comeback, and this is something I've been feeling myself as well. As trends change, they tend to, you know, kind of cycle back and forth. The last 10 years feel like they were largely fueled by sort of the rediscovery of the mid-century sport watch. Dive watches, GMTs, chronographs in particular have been sort of the go-to for many, many brands. Watches got smaller and the aesthetic cues really leaned towards vintage. But sports watches really dominated. I mean, if you were looking for a mid-century dive watch, you have many options at this point. That sort of devil-may-care style associated with the likes of Steve McQueen, Paul Newman, James Bond. I know he's a character, not a person, but still. The roughed-up, well-used steel watch that suggests a lifestyle of adventure, travel, danger perhaps, but also luxury, fast cars, boats, decadence. Everyone has obsessed with capturing it, and they have many times over. There's no lacking in choice for a mid-century dive watch, chronograph, or GMT. As that grew in saturation, I started looking elsewhere, especially in the high-end collector circuit. Brands like Patek, FP Journe, Cartier AP, Zona, even, you know, independents and the kind of really high-end like George Daniels, Vutalanen, Dufour, and of course Daniel Roth. They've all kind of been seeing this upturn, this spotlight being focused on them. You have websites like A Collected Man that really exclusively focuses on this kind of thing. But I believe this also puts a spotlight on their traditional and sort of dressy aesthetics as well. The successes of the Furlan Mari tasty Tondi chronographs, as well as their more recent Sector 3-hand, not to mention the Baltic Micro Rotor, which, you know, instantly sells out every time it comes back in stock. And the recent Laurel Zephyr, which was quite a surprising model, more of an Art Deco rather than kind of traditional model, but still definitely in that dressy style, indicates that the appreciation for this aesthetic isn't relegated to just the high-end collectors either. The taste of the collector community at large has grown. I'm hesitant to say matured because that could imply the wrong thing. It's not a matter of kind of getting better, but I will say things have sort of changed. And for myself, you know, my appreciation of traditional watch aesthetics really grew over time. Initially, it was more of an awareness and acknowledgement of its existence, but now it is more of a desire to possess watches with this look. I used to think I didn't dress well enough or seem fancy enough, frankly, for, you know, something like an Olanga, Zone, or a Breguet, or watches of the like. Now I keep looking at their prices, sales, auctions, etc. And have found wearing dressier pieces with everyday clothes acceptable, even enjoyable. Anyway, with brands like Fears, Garrick, Lane, Sartori Billiard, Louis Erard, and others gaining in popularity as well, I feel like dress watches, maybe even gold watches, are going to become much more popular soon. I don't know, what do you guys think? And now, a word from our sponsor, Watch Crunch. Are you looking for a place to share your thoughts on new watch content? Do you want to talk about what watch you're lusting after? Are you tired of sifting through tons of posts on Instagram just to find good watch content because you're fighting against an algorithm? Me too, which is why I use Watch Crunch, a social media site built for watch enthusiasts, from people just getting into the hobby to salty collectors like myself. It has all of the features you're looking for. Easy posting, easy tagging, commenting, photo editing, etc. And also a diversity of content. From wrist shots to reviews to polls and rants, it makes talking watches with fellow enthusiasts simple, fun, and convenient. No barriers, no digging through subforums, no ads, just watches. Just head to watchcrunch.com in your browser to get going, and once you're set up, give me a follow at Zach Weiss. That's at ZACHWEISS. I'll see you and your watches there. Question 2 is from Daddy Bear 91. Another great name. Thanks for making me say that out loud. What trends will we see in 2023? This is always a good question, and I'm not a fortune teller, so it's very easy to get this wrong. But here are a few of my guesses. First is my answer to the last question. We're going to see more dressy or at least non-sport options from a wider group of brands, which I believe will include micro brands. I'm not going to rehash why, but I definitely think this will be a trend. As for other things, I think GMTs are still only just in the beginning. This is not a new trend, but rather one that I think is about to peak or is going to be peaking soon. Several years ago, there were almost no options for movements for third-party brands or micro brands or independents. Now, Solida, Soprod for Swiss options, maybe soon with La Joux ramping up their offerings, but I'm unsure. More importantly, affordable options are now available from Seiko and Miyota. We've already seen the Notice Sector GMT at $475 with the Seiko movement, and the Boulder Odyssey Freediver at $899 with the Miyota. The Seiko is cool because it's just so affordable. This is going to allow a whole new category of brand to create mechanical GMTs. The Miyota is cool because while apparently a little bit pricier, it's a local jump hour GMT, which none of the Swiss options are. So this is the only third-party true GMT to my knowledge. That's huge. Though both versions are called GMTs, they're almost two different complications. Hopefully brands will embrace it. Curious to see if brands that have avoided Miyota previously before might turn to them now as well. I think they definitely might because of that, just having that functionality. Titanium will take over. I've semi-jokingly made my enthusiasm for titanium and a week of watches theme. But this year was genuinely great for titanium. While it's not new, hardly, first used by Citizen in 1970, in fact, and likely has had trending kind of surges in the past, seeing a concerted effort by brands to use it is quite exciting, especially to me. It's lighter, stronger, hypoallergenic. It's a great alternative for any watch, sport, or dress, as Grand Seiko has proven. Looks great on a dress watch. This year, we did see an uptick, but I think next it will become prevalent, sort of like how we saw bronze trend. Especially since, though, Rolex dropped their first titanium watch, which will likely make other brands feel pressured. I'm obviously excited to see titanium become a more normal option, especially where you might not expect it, like a finely finished dress watch. More accessible haute options. Zach Muzan wrote a piece on micro indies earlier this year, which are brands that straddle the line sort of between micro brand and bespoke independence. Brands that are becoming more popular, offering high-end craft and components. From movements like Vaucher and Schwartz Etienne, or even more bespoke ones like those made by Garrick, or just bespoke finishing on movements like you'll find from a brand like Lane. Also guilloche dials, enamel, and stone, all at more approachable prices. Not inexpensive, mind you, though less expensive than what large luxury houses would be offering them at. Christopher Ward also proved that there is a taste in exotic complications with the C1 Bel Canto. Basically, the perhaps 3 to 10K price point has a lot of room for brands to try new things, and it seems like there's quite an appetite for it from collectors as well. Is there anything I missed? Probably. So what trend do you think we'll see in next year? Please do let us know in the comments below. Question 3 is from Daniel Philiakis, I hope I pronounced that correct. What is a deeper reason we are so obsessed with watches and timekeeping? Man, that's a tough one. While we all have our reasons for why we got into it, or like, or continue to collect watches, I do think the fact that they are permanent and portable objects is part of it. We're surrounded by disposable products and things that just won't last forever, relatively. Tech items are an obvious example. They don't age well, even if they are made out of metal and glass. Their synthetic brains seem to dissolve over time, but they get outdated even faster. Clothing, home goods, etc. Some last a good long time and they can be patched and repaired, but more than not, they do break down, particularly clothing, eventually. Mechanical watches will last, and some quartz as well, obviously. They'll need servicing, of course, a new part here and there, a new strap on occasion, but assuming good upkeep, they'll stick around, longer than you, at least. They can be relied upon, whereas things with batteries just can't always. And they go with you through your day, your travels, your life. They are there, so they hold meaning. They tell stories by having been present, triggering memories. While a cell phone might literally contain a world of knowledge and be in your pocket and tell time more accurately than anything mechanical can, the objects themselves hold no meaning. Watches are also unique in that they are so multifaceted. There are so many things to like, enjoy, and reflect in. Design, engineering, history, craft, fashion, provenance, any of which can pull you in general, or a single thing can pull you into a specific watch. One watch can be purely an aesthetic joy, another fascinating because of some mechanical function, another simply because of the brand's prestige. There are other items like this that one can purchase, but few combine everything quite so well and can be worn on your wrist like a watch. How about you? What is the deeper reasons that bring you to this strange and at times quite expensive little obsession? And that's it for episode 29 of A Week in Watches. Once again, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, etc. Want to say thank you to WatchCrunch.com for sponsoring this. Please head to WatchCrunch.com. And lastly, head to Worn and Wound Daily for news, reviews, and everything else you want to know about watches. I'll see you next time.